Welcome to another episode of Through the Web Podcast, Take 2. With me, your co-host, Tawsif.
And me, Dagogo.
And we just messed up the first recording and it was going really well.
Yeah.
But we will try and repeat everything we had just said because it's been a while and that just showed. It's been a 2 weeks break.
I don't even know how to work the system.
Yeah, everything is just broken. I don't know what's this. How do you deal with the mic? But we had a 2 weeks break. It's been a while. So much things has happened over the time. It's like so hard to keep up. I actually had a bit of a rib injury. It's nothing to do with coughs or anything like that. I actually was playing soccer, got hit by a ball like far away, and I felt like, it was kind of chilly when I was playing. I felt like somebody, like something happened, but it was like, so when you get hit by a ball or something in winter, like it does burn a bit. So I thought it was that. But then at night, I slept. I was a bit of pain. I thought I was just muscle pain. The next day didn't go away. The third didn't go away. Fourth didn't go away. It's the same exact level of pain. So it wasn't like subsiding. I was like, oh shit. Went to the doctor and he's like, yeah, I think you've done probably a hairline fracture to your rib. Then I was like, oh, what do I do? And I was like, oh, don't do anything. I'm like, what do you mean? Like with the ribs, you don't actually need to wear a cast or anything like that. So yeah, that went for like a week. It wasn't the worst because I don't think I did it that badly. But the first 3-4 days, like I couldn't, like if there was hiccups, I was over. Because every time I would have one, it's like, it's the worst feeling ever. But yeah, that was my quick health update. How are you? Oh well, happy birthday. Thank you. That's actually happened last week.
Yeah. So basically, my birthday weekend was all right. So like last week, had lunch with the family, well with my mum, and then dinner with the family. But then something interesting happened the next day. So I picked up my girlfriend from work and we're driving home. And then just from rounding the corner towards my house, we saw some people like crossing the road and going into this park. And this music was like pumping.
Oh, just across the... It's the drum and bass thing.
And I was like, what's that? Should we go? Yeah, let's go. So we just bought tickets online and just went. It was awesome. It was fun.
What with the whole family?
No.
Oh,
just
you?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, what are your parents in the drum and bass event? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you were there. Nice.
No, but it wasn't exactly drum and bass. It was a lot of different things. They had 2 main stages, but there was a period of like half an hour where I was hearing this music that I didn't know what it was. It was like mostly something, but a bit of something else, and then just all mixed in there. And I was like, this is really cool. Like I got to figure out who this guy is, who's this DJ. And they didn't have him on the site. So like I've emailed the company and
no response.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's sad. Like I honestly, I
lost
thought
forever
it was really,
in the quantum.
Yeah, no, but I did think it was really cool. I just love that kind of stuff. Like the fact that you can still go out to hear someone play and it's different and it's surprising. That's just made my birthday weekend.
But that sounds like a good birthday weekend. What has been your, I guess, favorite birthday memory over the last, I don't know, how many of years?
Maybe a few years ago, I had a surprise birthday, which is my first and only so far, and that was really cool because I wasn't expecting anything
at all.
Didn't know,
wow.
And I was like, lots of people there, and
cool.
I just kind of walked in, and then I was like, wait, hang on. And it was like, it was really fun. Had a good night, and it was just nice,
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
I'd say that would be
cool. Yeah, because surprises are hard to set up. I had one. My wife did 5-6 years ago now. I didn't expect it at all, so it was pretty cool. But you start, especially if it's by someone in the same household, you start picking up on little things that, why is that thing there? Like, well, this isn't supposed to be. And the interesting thing that I found out that if you try to do the surprise on the day of the birthday, it's usually harder. So you should do it like on a random day of the same week or something.
Sense, yeah.
Or maybe like, I don't know, like someone else's birthday, but it's actually not your birthday, so
right. Yeah,
they'll be like, "Oh wow, it wasn't your birthday, but it's your surprise. That's the surprise."
Somehow that could work. Well, have you watched anything interesting in the past couple of weeks?
Nothing that I could specifically point to because just so many things. It's mostly been catching up with news. I realized that I watch a lot of React reacts videos these days in terms of like people reacting to the news or giving their commentary on news, like a lot of commentary channels. So as I was thinking about like, okay, what do I talk about in terms of, like what I watched over the last fortnight, I went through and watched history, and there's so many just people reacting to like, oh, this update happened, or that happened, and that made me think like that's how I consume a lot of my news as well these days, which is very interesting. It's just my user habit has just been changing, and I think there's a whole rise of that as well in general, of people just reacting to news. Maybe it's just maybe finding validation through that. Or I have certain thoughts about this. Does this person also have that thought?
Yeah,
maybe that's the whole.
I
thing.
kind of do a similar thing, but I do it through comments. I'll just watch a news story from whatever.
Yeah.
BBC, Channel 7, whatever. And then, Channel 7 doesn't have the comments anymore. But yeah,
most channels don't.
Yeah, you watch, you used to do this a lot anyway. You watch the content and you're like, oh, that's a bit weird. That's a bit silly. And then you go down the comments and then the top comment is like that. And it's like, yeah, okay. But I understand that. And I think it's interesting to kind of have a second person or set of eyeballs on the situation just to see what they think. So
yeah, I think we've talked about this a lot as well. How I usually consume content, especially with polarizing topics, is I'll pick a certain person who is on a certain side of the spectrum, and then see what the other person on the other side of the spectrum is also reacting to the same news. Gives me a wider worldview, even if I may not agree with one or the other.
Yeah.
So there's that. But how about you? Did you watch anything interesting?
So there's two things that come to mind. I watched, I think, 3 or 4 Putin documentaries.
Wow.
So
that's a lot.
Yeah. So just like,
you okay?
No, I wanted to know, because it's like, when I have a gap in my knowledge, I'm like, well, what really,
That's good. Yeah.
So, these, I watched some before the Russia-Ukraine thing and some after. And yeah, it was kind of just interesting how he came to power and all of that. But that's all neither here or there. But one of the interesting things about it was I didn't know that Russia had their own 9/11. Yeah. So they had their own major terrorist attack that killed, many hundreds.
Was the train?
No. So there was, I think, 5 apartments that had bombs in them.
Oh, wow.
And 4 of them exploded and killed a lot of people. But the 5th one was found by some concerned citizens, and they dismantled the bomb and everything. But they found out that the bomb was made from advanced materials that only the not the Gestapo, but the Secret Service or whatever of the Russian Federation would have had. And so it was thought to be like an inside job.
Wow.
And this happened 1 year after Putin was head of that organization that is supposedly, allegedly, made that bomb. So very interesting. But yeah, had no idea about that. Usually, like, those little facts are something that I'd be like, oh yeah, like, but I'd never heard of that. So that was.
Where'd you watch them? In the YouTube or Netflix?
YouTube, yeah. I think this was 1999 that happened. But the second interesting thing I watched was another thing that wasn't on my radar: the Humane Company. Have you heard of them?
Just recently. I think it's based in New York, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, and Sam Sheffer is something of it. I think that's how I know.
He's involved with it.
Yeah, because he's been banging the drum for a while.
I think I'm not sure if he's an investor or what.
I think Casey would be an investor for sure.
Yeah, but
that's how I found out anyway. But anyway, go on.
But like I'd been seeing some stuff on Twitter, and I was like, yeah, like whatever. Like, this just sounds like another scam company.
Another new startup tech bubble thing. Yeah.
And then I was like, let me just look a little bit deeper into it. And then I found out that it's like full of ex-Apple employees, and not just any lame rubbish cleaner, but like full on, people that were high up and did some amazing things, like Ken Koshienda, who invented autocorrect, who I interviewed for my iPhone video. He's on the team as well. A lot of ex-employees that had a lot of stuff to do with iOS design, and the guy who got the patent for slide and lock and all of this stuff. So really innovative, good Apple engineers are behind this project. I think there's in the order of 60 of them.
Wow.
And it's quite secretive, but we just know some information through their patents. And it looks like they're trying to build like wearables, but to a different degree. So it's like a couple of weeks ago since I watched this, but one example that they gave, I can't remember if it was like you could have something that projects from your body and like use it as an interface kind of thing. I hope that's right. But anyway, but along those lines, like just thinking about wearables a little bit differently. So now instead of complete skepticism, I'm like, this has potential, but I'd like to wait and see how it comes out. So, when they announce something, I think I might do a video on it just when more information's out there.
That'd be a very, very cool video to watch. I was also kind of watching a few kind of random clips. I forget the name of the company, but there's just on Instagram, there was one about it's almost like those Minority Report type holograph touchable stuff. It was like this device that allows you to do certain aspects of it, and it looked very convincing.
It wasn't CGI.
I hope not. It was on Instagram, so do take it with a bit of grain of salt. But that looked very, very convincing to me, and I think I mentioned it once before in the podcast. I was like, that'd be cool to have. That looked pretty convincing to me. And then there's the other thing I saw, and I think I shared it with you as well, was this sweater that stops AI from recognizing your face. It was done by I think a university as well. That was very cool to see like how they're kind of combating these things and how you could just go past a lot of these AI ML up until it learns
exactly. That's the issue. Like I think there was a comment that put it pretty well. It's like yes, the shirt would work for a while, but then once it learns the patterns of that shirt, that's it.
They shouldn't have publicized it. They should have gone straight to government agencies. This is how you get your spies to go through.
No, because then no one will be able to escape then. Like you should just not tell anyone and then just wear it.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, someone was like, you would need an ever-changing shirt to combat it. But anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so, but yeah, I think that's some of the cool things that I would have seen anyway. Okay. But over the last 2 weeks, one other personal update happened, and that was getting this watch. I don't know if you can see on the thing. It's the new Pixel Watch. I finally bit the bullet and got it. I have some thoughts, but I think you want to see, so I'll quickly let you play around with it a little bit. Okay. But I'm happy to answer any questions, almost like as I'm the spokesperson for Google.
Well, Mr. Spokesperson for the Google Watch. What is the battery life like? Is it as disappointing as people say?
Okay, so I have to add a bit of context, right? So for me, the way I use it, I actually use it less as a smartwatch and more as a...
Sorry, is this light always going on? Because
that's the heart rate.
And it's once a second.
1 second heart rate, yeah. Which is also one of the reasons why it has a bit of a low battery life in general, because it picks up the heart rate every second, which I think MKB did a video on as well and said that no, that's I don't really need to know an update every second. But other than that, overall, I don't use it as much as a smartwatch. I don't use it as a smartwatch as much as I should. I use it more as a fitness wearable, which helps me in saving the battery a lot compared to a lot of the updates that have come out or the reviews have come out. On top of that, I actually have the screen. I don't have the always on option, mainly because I don't want my 2-year-old to fiddle around with when I'm wearing it. Okay. So I actually have like a touch screen thing that's locked off, and that also saves a lot of battery. So for me, on my experience, battery life has been perfect. Like maybe you have to charge it once every night at most. Maybe 1.5 days it'll go easily with one workout. In terms of how it feels, how it's it is a little small for sure, but it does feel quite premium in terms of the build quality. The haptics are fantastic. Just the way you feel around the thing, the wheel on the side is great as well. Screen's nice. The bezel is big, but they actually hide it well with the black backgrounds throughout the whole thing. I guess the main thing where a lot of people don't like it is this integration with Fitbit. Now, again, I have been a Fitbit user before, so I already have the app. I have everything installed. It has my history. So for me, it was like, it makes perfect sense. But then it's just the branding of it as well. It's just everywhere. There's a little bit of Fitbit logo here and there, and they also have the Google Fit. So it's almost like, they're not sure as to how they will integrate the Fitbit and Google Fit into just one kind of thing, because I think they want to keep that Fitbit branding. I think that was probably a term when they acquired it. But when they acquired it, that's when I knew that they was going to go into the watch space straight away. But for some reason, I thought that they were not going to use the branding in Google Watch, because Fitbit has its own line of things, like the Versa and all that kind of stuff.
So you kind of thought that they would like take all the IP and everything, but just reskin it and it'll be
exactly like it'll use Fitbit's technology, but not have the Fitbit branding, which it seems like they haven't gone that route at all.
And I think that kind of would make more sense, as long as like if you already had a Fitbit account and everything, it'll just sync and it'll be easy. But like just having two separate things, doesn't really seem.
Especially for new users, it's not seamless, right? And on top of that, it comes with a 6-month free trial of the Fitbit Premium. But after that, you have to pay. And the Fitbit Premium has stuff that's, like deeper analytics about your sleep and all that kind of stuff. So it's not there's a paywall to know more
I've heard
things.
that all of that premium stuff, the Apple Watch can do for free.
Samsung as well. So again, it's just weighing up how you use it. For me, I don't need those advanced analytics. But then if you're a full-on kind of, fitness buff who really needs all that kind of information, for you, it's not. And on top of that, I also got like a huge discount, or pretty much like a gift in essence. So I wouldn't pay full price for what it's priced at right now. So because of that, for me, it doesn't hurt as much as it's I only got it for less anyway. So I wouldn't have paid full price for this because I don't think it's worth the amount that they're saying. But having said that, experience wise, for my personal use, for what I need to do, it's plenty and more. So pretty happy with it actually. Very happy.
Okay. So I guess, for your use case, it seems like but I know a lot of people that
won't, and especially if you're like pitting it up against Samsung. And I use a Google Watch a Google phone, for example. So again, that's an easy option for me as well. So again, I think, and that's the thing with tech these days. It's just so great that you have so many options, and you can kind of cater to your own individual needs, which is why all this kind of this is better, that is better. I think there's some objective metrics like how fast the certain hertz are for refresh and things of that sort, or how quickly you can swipe through things. Those are probably objective, but again, what do you need it for? I think is the main question any person diving into tech or new tech products needs to ask themselves. So
I think that's definitely true. I agree with that. Like over time, I think we'll just start seeing that the specs just matter less as well. So it will just be literally what you like, what features it has, and then
and I think they'll probably do better. This is the first gen of the watch. I think there's going to be a better second gen for sure, because they got a lot of things right with the first one, especially the feel and the look of it. So I think the second gen is going to be really like a game changer for the Android industry, because it has the potential to directly rival what Apple's doing with the Apple Watch.
Okay, big words. We'll check back in a year.
In a year's time, if they do decide to go that path. But we do have massive news today.
Well, which one? What do you want to start with?
The one where we have to kind of let it sink in first, because
is it a certain Musk on Elon?
I think so. I don't think that was very discreet, but so for those who have been following us since the beginning, I think that's pretty much around the time when we were first hearing about the whole Twitter takeover from Elon Musk. And those first few months, we covered him so much. We were like, you know what, screw it. We don't want to cover Elon anymore, because it's just every week there's some random updates. But as of yesterday, pretty much, so we're filming on Friday, so Thursday, he went inside the Twitter headquarters with a sink on his hands, and he basically said, let that sink in, with the whole idea that he's actually close or basically done acquiring Twitter.
Well, I see it a little bit differently. So I don't know if you've seen on Twitter those, sorry if you're not a Twitter user, this will be in the weeds, but whenever someone has a big post or whatever, there'll be like all these posts of people with the, this post is censored for violence, click if you want to see it kind of thing. And then a lot of those were let that sink in with a door frame and then a sink.
Yeah, it's like a popular meme anyway.
So I thought he was just referring to that.
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
But then he actually claims that he's bought.
Oh yeah, of course. That's I thought that was a separate issue. But anyway, but
he was actually recreating the meme itself.
Yeah. Then, anyway, okay. But so I think this whole thing of Elon Musk and Twitter doing this dance of will they, won't they? I think it for me, it felt like the boy who cries wolf. And even though the boy was correct and the wolf did come, I'm like, whatever. Because I've heard I've been such on a
Up and
roller
down.
coaster. I've just been like, oh, whatever.
Even if you see him with physically the Twitter headquarters, like, you know what? I'll believe it.
Yeah.
I'll believe it when the world crashes down.
It's like, he still might not buy it, even though he's bought it. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of interesting changes. He said 75% of staff will be fired, but then has walked that back, saying maybe it's not going to be that long.
I think he had an internal meeting already where Bloomberg reported that's not the case.
Yeah, and then also internal documents from Twitter said I think they were already planning to fire 25% of their staff. Which is all very interesting because it's this wider trend of just knowing that a lot of these tech companies are way overbloated. They have way too many staff, not being as fully productive as they could be, kind of just milling around. I'm not putting any shade on them, but that's what it seems like. If you can theoretically fire 25% to say 60% of your staff, that's a lot of waste, So it'll be interesting to see how he cleans it up, how the platform's going to look afterwards, which obviously we've talked about, like hopefully no Dogecoin or anything. But I think he has probably a different point of view from a lot of tech CEOs. So it'll just be interesting to see how he goes about things on the back end, whether it's the algorithm or whether it's like the policies on speech or. It's hard to say what's going to happen, but I think it will just be interesting to watch for sure.
Hey, 100%. And I think I totally agree with you about the whole the boy who cried the wolf thing, because the market kind of reacted similarly. Like the Twitter shares, there's nothing. There's like a little bit up. It's like, okay. So you don't have, and Twitter again on the news, there's nothing to react to. So I think everyone's kind of in that same boat that we've heard about this so much. It's the same thing. So you're very right that it's going to be super interesting to see the changes he makes. I think some of the things he mentioned was that there could be a potential paywall, or like a paid service to access this new social media thing that he's going to turn this into. But the idea of I think has always been that he's going to use Twitter as a way to create something that evolves from Twitter and not stick to what Twitter's been doing anyway. I think that's probably the step that he's going to take, because he always talks about free speech and algorithms, and I think he doesn't consider himself particularly conservative from at least the statements he has mentioned. I think one of it said that one of the reasons why he acquired this is because he wanted the world to come closer to the center, whereas right now everything on social is either far left or far right. So but I think the general population would think that he's more leaning towards the right side of things because of his thoughts and things that he has mentioned in the past. So it's interesting. I think he probably sees himself as
center,
as someone in the center. So it'll be interesting also to see how he is going to really get that whole censorship or cancel culture criticism that he's always put out there, and how he's going to manage that. We've seen time and time again that there are policies that you need to have, and for those companies, because there are actually a lot of companies that don't adhere to these. And there's much smaller, like for example, if somebody's thing is taken off of YouTube, they go to those kind of websites, right, where it's kind of like the wild west for everything and anything. So it's not like it's a new concept altogether. It's just probably going to be the more popular one amongst those concepts. So,
but I think there's a key difference. If Elon is doing what you're saying he's going to do, there's a key difference between this future Twitter of allowing everyone to speak and these other platforms that have people that have come on them that have been kicked off other platforms. Because what happens in the latter case is it's just full of those, pariahs and whatever's the most radical people kicked off the mainstream site. So you just end up with this cesspool of all the most extreme views in the one place.
Exactly.
So it's like, you'd walk in there and go on this, smaller website to find, a cooking thing, but then you'd have like, I don't know.
Like a full-on extreme point of view about something.
Yeah. You'd have the most extreme points of stuff you just probably don't want to delve into. So I think it'll be an interesting experiment to see if there is, a major platform that leans towards you can say whatever you want apart from yelling fire in a crowded room or inciting violence or death upon someone. It's, if you just left the rules open.
Because he also mentioned that he'll ensure that it's a safe space for advertisers to still exist in like on Twitter. I think that was an angle that he presented as well. So the problem is all the big brands obviously will have to work with the demand of the audience that they serve. So in the case of Kanye West, for example, which we'll dive into more, there was a lot of pressure for a lot of the companies that work with him to cut ties with him regarding some of the comments that he has made over the past few weeks. So if these brands have an audience that don't want them to support certain points of views, they'll have to adhere to what the audience thinks, not so much about what's on the platform or not. So for Twitter to be a safe space, but then it allows every point of view, because ultimately these social media platforms cave into the general population, what they think about certain ideologies, right? Because they're not going to use the platform. That's the threat. I'm going to use it because you let it host points of views that are against mine.
I kind of disagree with that. I think these platforms, maybe that on the surface, that's like, they kind of have the interests of the people who are using the platform at heart. But I think ultimately that the interest is in the advertisers. So,
yeah, exactly. What I mean, the reason why they're interested in the people is because they don't want people to stop using their product, which means they'll lose money, right? So ultimately, it comes down to money for most of these companies anyway. But which is why I think that Elon's, already trying to play that diplomatic game that, it's going to be a safe place for advertisers, for anybody who wants to talk about anything. It's going to be the flag bearer of free speech on social media. So I think he's already on the diplomatic route. I don't think it's going to be as simple as he thought it's going to be.
Yeah. I think for now, like everything that Elon Musk does, there's just going to be people that just hate him for it. So I think that's going to kind of play into the perception of Twitter. Like when there's some big decision made on free speech or whatever, not everyone, but a lot of people are going to be naturally against it because Elon Musk has facilitated this decision. So I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts, man.
Yeah, and Twitter was actually doing reasonably well compared to where they were maybe 5 years ago when Facebook was like really at its peak.
I don't know if you've seen Facebook lately.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that as well, literally the next topic. But compared to where Twitter was, I think they've done reasonably well to kind of at least hold on to a certain demographic of audience. But then, Elon there are reports that he did go in and fire some of the top execs already.
Yeah, I heard.
Including Mr. Parag Agrawal himself. To him, he had said, like, what did you get done this week? That URL chain was hilarious.
Yeah, so he's gone, and then I think that the trust and safety manager is
the
gone.
CFO's gone, the CEO's gone. So like all the top execs are pretty much out of the window.
Yeah.
Hopefully not literally out of the window from the first floor, or from top floor. But yeah, it looks like he has some idea what he wants to do, and this is probably his first step. It's just we have to wait and see how far.
But just think about it. Like obviously we've been talking about this Elon Musk Twitter thing for a while, but just think about it. Like a year or 2 years ago, if someone was to say like Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, he's going to buy Twitter. Like you'll be like, what? No. And then now it's like, it's
happening. And it's 44 billion as well, which is, and
it's actually quite a bit.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, again, he is a full-on capitalist, right? And for most capitalist people, the idea is, return on investment. I put in money, I need to make that money back and more. He seems like his motivation in most cases is about humanity. I think he does have that, even though there's lots of people who don't think that way, but I feel based on a lot of the comments and just the way he acts, like he does see himself as like the savior of humanity in a lot of ways, with moving to Mars, like colonizing Mars, right? Because the world's gonna die, we need to expand. Like all these things you read as a kid, he wants to kind of make those things happen. Flying cars, electric cars, like those are the ideas that he wants to push. And again, with the Twitter, it's more from the sociology idea that I'm gonna save humanity, the way they're talking about stuff. But then to spend $44 billion on something like this, he obviously needs to find a way to make that money back. Not, cent for cent, but you know what I mean. Like when you put in that much money, how do you make that money back? So that's going to be more interesting from a business point of view. That's a huge amount. How do you recoup that back on a volatile, like an already volatile platform or social media in itself? It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
But yeah, as I mentioned about Facebook, things aren't looking too good for them. So investors wiped around 80 billion of the market value of Facebook and Instagram's owner Meta after the company reported profits had halved during the third quarter as advertisers reined in spending amid the global economic downturn. The shares briefly dipped below $100, taking them to the lowest level since 2016. And this is amidst a fine that they got from Washington State judge who mentioned that the Meta company has to pay around $25 million for repeatedly and intentionally violating campaign finance disclosure law, which is basically the idea that they have to be transparent about ads and who they show ads to and things of that sort. And it's believed to be the largest campaign finance penalty in the U.S. history. So huge stuff for them as well. For Meta, it just seems like they're in this really odd spot with the whole economic downturn. Is the time where they chose to really push the whole metaverse thing. NFTs gone of the picture. I think what OpenSea is down to from 97% down in terms of
I think I heard about that.
Yeah, in terms of trade volume.
Yeah.
So that shows like the amount of activity that's happening in that space, which a lot of people weren't anyway from the first, from the start, that the fad of NFTs is less about the shiny things and there's more, because the technology behind it will always have some use case. And I think now it's probably the level playing field is slowly happening. But I just think about the guy who bought the Beeple piece for $69 million.
Yeah.
Well,
Look, there's not much to say, but maybe just the novelty. Like, how can I put this another way? Like, if you manage to get the most valuable Beanie Baby, right? Back in the 90s, complete bubble, but just the novelty of just having that one that everyone knew about. Maybe that would have some value. That's
like sometimes, for example, like just him, or if you're the person of acquiring something that, at least at that point in time, was so valuable, you get a lot of media attention that could open up potential doors to do other things, other business ventures and other stuff. So that could, in some ways, recoup in a longer term return. But
I'm grasping at straws, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the only way you can. But obviously, for someone who can shed $69 million,
it's not crying at night.
It's exactly.
But yeah, on the Facebook thing, I guess. Well, just for those of you that don't know, I'm working on a 40-minute documentary on the GFC, Great Financial Crisis of 2008. And maybe because I'm in that mindset still, I just can't help but see that Facebook's troubles and a lot of other companies' troubles, whether it's with the bloating of hiring too many staff or now having advertisers scale back and cause their profits to fall, etc. I think the main reason is because of higher interest rates. So because of this, companies can't take out as much debt. They had too much debt in the first place because the interest rates are so low. So it's like when the interest rates have been so low for 10 years, close to zero, all these companies, the whole financial system, it all starts working in a way that factors in those low rates, and it becomes solidified in that state where it's it needs those low rates to function and to actually grow. So as soon as those rates start to rise, then everything kind of gets shaky. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing at the moment. So I don't think this problem is unique to Facebook. I think we're going to see it quite broadly.
Yeah, I think ABC, which is Google's parent company, also.
What? ABC, Google's parent company?
What did I say?
You said ABC.
What's Google's parent company?
Alphabet.
What is in my head? ABC is Alphabet. I have a 2-year-old. Okay, give me a break.
I was like, what? As in the media company?
A B C D E F G H I J. My God. I need another cup of coffee.
Oh, good.
That was so bad. Alphabet, Google's parent company, ABC. They've also faced a dip in this quarter's reports as well. So it's not just Facebook, and as has Microsoft as well. So a lot of the tech companies, as you mentioned, are facing downturn and repercussions of perhaps higher interest rates. Is there a way to, I guess, directly prove that?
To prove it, well, it's kind of just like you look at the debt levels, so you can see basically. Well, another thing is like the quantitative easing. So okay, so let me backtrack for a sec. So like when you have low interest rates, it literally like it's economics 101 that encourages borrowing because it's cheap money. So when interest rates are low, then you get more debt. So individuals, companies, governments, they all borrow. And then when you have that borrowing and that cheap money, then things tend to get riskier and riskier and they take more riskier options. That's just kind of known. But if you want to have a look at it, you can look at the Federal Reserve chart and you can look at, three things. So the money put into the system, you can look at the stock market and you can look at the interest rates. You compare all of those three and then you can see that whenever there's money printing, it basically mirrors the stock market. And basically when the interest rates are at zero, it allows this condition to happen. So it's all kind of, I would say that it's a mechanism that has just kind of festered itself and it's just a natural expression of allowing humans to take out a lot of money and access to cheap money. It's just human behavior, I think. So in terms of proving it, you can look at the charts and see it, but I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I've seen parts of the video that you've been working on. It's really cool. Can't wait for it to come out later tonight. So for those listening in or watching, do check it out because by the time you see this and hear this podcast, it should be out on the Cold Fusion YouTube channel. So make sure to check it out. I'll move on to a more let's say sadder story for certain people in the story itself. But I guess like a lot of these tech companies, somebody who's not having a good day is Kanye West.
Yeah. Not just a day, not just one day.
It's been a few, I don't know, probably months now. Well, the way it seems like it's probably years, and it's just been, all leading up to this point by the looks of it. But it's a full disclosure for those who know, I'm a big Kanye West fan. I think he's a creative genius. He's revolutionized a lot of the things in the creative world, in the creative fields.
For that saying that you're going to get cancelled.
I know. It's just sad that you can't even stand Kanye's Stan anymore. But obviously, for those who don't know, so Kanye is a famous producer, music artist, and also a businessman. He's done a lot of interesting stuff over the years. And recently, he's been under fire. He's also one of the billionaires, at least was up until very recently. And he's been just going through a lot of controversial, comments that he's been making about Jews and other things as well. He wore a White Lives Matter T-shirt in a fashion runway that he was conducting as well. So very controversial stuff, very controversial figure, and not new to it. He's done things in the past pretty much as long as I can remember, but he's always kind of found a way out of it. Like he'd have like a big controversial moment.
For some reason, like when you said controversial things as long as I can remember, like for some reason the Taylor Swift incident popped into my mind, whereas like Beyonce had the best music video of all time.
But that's the second big one. The first one was the George Bush one where he said he doesn't care about
hates black people.
On live TV.
Yeah, just the way he said it was just like straight out there. Like,
you have to watch his podcast with Lex Friedman. It's hilarious. It's eye opening. It's sad. I was watching it. Yeah, because he tries. Lex is a very good.
Yeah.
He's profound. He's a good thinker, and a very good interviewer as well. So he's Jew as well, I think. So when Jewish, and so when he was interviewing Kanye, it was a little bit about the things, but also more from a personal perspective as well. So very, very funny.
When was this?
2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Kanye has basically been going, so basically ever since he's been kind of going at people on Instagram. That's so in terms of timeline, a month or so back, he just started going off at like Adidas executives, just saying that, they're not doing things right by him, blah, blah, blah. And he pretty much had people's faces up on his Instagram saying that, that person's done that person's done that. Like pretty much one of his regular rants that he's had over the years anyway. So everyone thought, he's just going to do that things are going to come down. He's going to release a new album, so forth. But then he just kept on going. So from that point on, he got kicked off of Instagram, basically. Not kicked off, but more so he was, what's it called? Suspended, that's right. He was suspended, so he couldn't post anything. Then he went on Twitter. And from that point, he started making some comments. And then on Twitter, he made a very, anti-Semitic tweet that really got the attention of many people as well. So obviously, for those who don't know, you can check it out on Twitter. And then he got banned or suspended from Twitter as well. And after that, he started going on all these podcasts, basically to talk about, his stance, where he makes things worse in pretty much every single podcast he's gone to.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those.
So he's gone to like 3-4 big ones, including Piers Morgan, Lex Friedman, and all of this happened like within a week's period. So he was just kind of going on this tour.
So what kind of stuff is he saying on this podcast? Is it just like stuff to do with that tweet, or is it?
So most of the interviewers, they'll ask him questions about that, and in trying to explain it, he'll just dig a bigger hole, and then it'll just become this ripple effect. So every time he'll try to explain, he'll say something even worse.
Wow.
But not so much in a way where like he's trying to hold on to his stance, but he's I'm very sorry to the people who feel offended. He'll say that, and then he'll be like, but I said that because, and then he'll go deep into that, and then it's worse than what he was trying to say anyway.
Right.
So it just became this whole kind of ripple effect. And the reason why we're talking about this is because it started, people paying attention more and more to the things he said. And obviously a lot of people aren't happy with the way he's been spewing like anti-Semitic stuff. He said some really crazy stuff about other groups of people. He mentioned that George Floyd, you're pretty much saying stuff that's against the common knowledge as well, that the way he passed away as well. So those things kind of piled on, and then eventually companies started dropping their ties with him. And this is important because he had a deal with Adidas. I don't know, however people say it. I say Adidas. So he had a deal with Adidas, which is reportedly $1.5 billion, which essentially made him a billionaire. So prior to Adidas cutting ties with him, which only happened 2 days ago, Balenciaga, which is one of the biggest high-end fashion brands, Vogue, talent agencies, all of them were like slowly dropping him. And Ari Emanuel, who basically owns one of the biggest media companies and entities in the world, he himself is Jewish. I think that company owns UFC, so you can tell the scale of how big and influential this guy is. Pretty much came out and said, you guys need to stop dealing with Kanye. And that basically started this whole kind of thing. And essentially where it landed is that Adidas finally cut ties with him. But the funny thing is, prior to all this, like in one of the first podcasts he appeared, he said, I can keep on saying anti-Semitic stuff and Adidas can't drop me. So I think there was more pressure on Adidas to look at it, because the reason why the Adidas thing was more important, in a lot of ways, Kanye saved Adidas's route. Like he made them billions, so much so that his Yeezy line, which Yeezy is his line that that partnered with Adidas to create products for that line, amounts for 10% of the company's entire revenue. So that's a significant chunk, and that only happened over the last 6-7 years, I would say. And when I say he revolutionized a lot of things, a lot of the things that Adidas and Yeezy worked together on, you at first will be like, it's a bit out there, but soon you'll see other companies making similar stuff, right? So from that angle, he's really helped Adidas get to that point.
The interesting thing is, so I've heard that Adidas, they can keep the
That's
intellectual
right.
property that.
So when they announced that they were cutting ties, they specifically mentioned in that comment that Adidas will keep all of the designs and colorways that they've already produced and future ones that they've agreed, but they'll just not use the word Yeezy anymore, which is Kanye's brand. So they can't use Kanye's likeness into the products, which would be easy because the Yeezy branding is mostly on the insole. And I was reading this commentary from this sneaker lawyer
Sneaker lawyer. That is specific.
He has a book called Sneaker Law, and he's very famous in that world. But he mentioned something like that Kanye actually won't have a lot of ground to fight against that, because it'll be simple for Adidas to simply remove that branding and continue to sell the products. So essentially, they're having done that though, they're gonna lose almost like $250 million in profit, which is huge number for a company. And I think the Yeezy was making 1.5 billion. Oh, actually, I don't know so 2 billion a year. So the Yeezy generated an estimated 2 billion a year, which again, like 10% of the company's revenue, and then it'll cost the company 248 million this year. So, it's very interesting to see how, because we kind of keep going back saying that at the end of the day, the bottom line is money for a lot of these companies. In this specific instance, it seems like Kanye hurt some people deep with the comments that he's made, to the point where all these companies have just dropped him, and now they're literally going to lose money because of it. And essentially, they're still gonna stick with that angle.
But say like someone in the basement of Adidas was doing these calculations and then realized that, hey, if we stick on with this, we'll lose even more money than we'll lose if we if we drop Kanye.
I think immediately though, it's clear that they're gonna lose money, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a fact. So to recoup that, because Adidas was already struggling in a lot of cases before this, they went on to this streetwear hype beast kind of world, right?
Is Hype? Is that a separate company? Or is that owned by
Hype Beast?
No, just Hype.
No, I think it's a separate. That's a thing in the city. That's an Australian.
It's an Australian brand.
Yeah, Hype DC. I think it's an Australian
okay.
retail store. But Hype Beast is like a concept in itself, in and of itself. But there's also Hype Beast Media Company. But anyway, when they got into that market, that's when they really started competing, because again, the mid 2010s they weren't doing really well. So I think they're definitely going to lose money in the short term for sure. But also, I think some people were saying that they have a complicated past with the founder of the company. So Adolf Dassler, who's basically the main. So that's how the name comes. Adolf, Adi, and Dassler. It's Das, so Adidas. He used to be a Nazi. From
really,
yes, or at least he had a history with the Nazi Party, where I think he even made uniforms for certain youth.
Hitler's youth.
Yeah. So that in itself obviously makes a complicated past for the company, and of course the comments being very anti-Semitic, they had to probably take that stance where it's a more branding thing beyond anything. It's like a branding cost, right? Yeah. They can't really fulfill. But it's not to say that this will destroy the company, but they will definitely lose a lot of money in the short term. Obviously, for a company as big as Adidas or Nike, Nike is definitely way bigger in a lot of cases, but for a company like Adidas to make that money back, I think you're right. I think they probably had to take some calculative decision here to say that, okay, maybe we'll lose some money now, but hopefully we'll have to do something else. But with Kanye though, he's pretty much it's again kind of like the whole Elon thing. It's like you just don't know what he does next. I think Elon and Kanye have similar kind of troll mentalities. It's just that Elon is a little bit more grounded,
a little bit
more grounded than Kanye in terms of because I don't know if you saw that interview, but there was one where Elon Musk was asked like who do you look up to, or who's your creative inspiration or something, then he said Kanye West. Everybody was laughing, but he was serious because they're friends actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so in the last I think Dawn listening party, like Elon was there lying on the thing with Kanye, like together just lying. There was like a really nice photograph of them. So they're like very close and stuff. So
what timeline is
I
this?
don't know, man.
What timeline?
But that's the influence this Kanye has in terms of industry.
Look, maybe he'll learn from this. He'll get some help.
I think so. But I think that's another important point. Like he does have a bipolar disorder, and he's mentioned it many times that he hasn't been taking his meds for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
So
because I'm no expert on bipolar, but I used to be close with some people that had it, and like during the manic stages, it can be.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were saying, again, this is I don't have no experience or expertise in this field, but a lot of the comments that people said that usually in those episodes you feel like you're in control, but actually you're in the complete opposite end, which is.
But it's not even just control, but you feel amazing.
Exactly.
Like it's just like you can do anything,
And that's what he does, and I think for him though to push as far as he has in a lot of the things. He in fact, like if you listen to the interviews, most of the stuff is just garbage. Like he keeps his attention like span is so like he tries to explain things, but you can see that he's trying very hard, but he's just saying a lot of random words.
Right. I think that's what I felt in the Joe Rogan one a while back.
Yeah, and some, but amongst all of that verbiage, you'll pick out some really interesting kind of sentences, almost like finding a needle in a haystack kind of thing. And those sentences are really profound at times. It's like, oh wow, like that really makes sense. Like he said something along the lines of like, I put my hand on the candy jar of freedom of speech so much that I wanted to go a little bit further and even try to see where I can push this whole thing. And the way he phrased it was so nice. Anyway, I just thought it was a very interesting situation with the whole thing with the companies and the way they take stance and the way they build things as well, and then now kind of how they go about. Because if you look at the past with these big companies working with individuals, this hasn't really been the case. It's a very new thing. It's a very post 2000 thing in terms of not in terms of celebrity endorsement, but literally working
I see.
with an individual who's as influential to really push the company's image, the company's product lines and things like that. So,
yeah, well, like as I said, I just hope he gets better.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of that, there's actually been an interesting kind of side news. Is that according to Axios, which is like a media company as well, they spoke to a few people with sources familiar with a certain Mr. Beast, and apparently he's looking to raise around 150 million for his business at a roughly $1.5 billion valuation of the whole Mr. Beast company. So 1.5 billion is what people think, or at least sources within Mr. Beast think, is the value of the whole thing. And it's interesting. I think, even though it's unconfirmed news, I think there's some truth to it, because with that amount, if that's what it's valued at, it'll make him the first YouTube billionaire in terms of net worth. So I think there's probably an angle there somewhat where he's always wanted to be like the first YouTube something in all of the cases, but to be the first YouTube billionaire would be.
But I guess looking at it from like strictly a financial perspective, like what each of these videos that he costs, like racks in, I don't know how much, lots of money, but the amount that it costs to make, like sometimes he loses money on videos. So it's like you have to look at it for just forget that it's Mr. Beast, forget everything, just kind of look at it from a perspective. I don't know those numbers, I don't know what it's doing, but it would kind of be interesting to see if that $1.5 billion valuation accounts for all of that. And I'm thinking this includes the Beast Burgers. And
that's right. That's what I was going to say. So it's obviously his main channel is his greater pool, but then he has so many other channels, right? With the Mr. Beast Reacts, the Espanol and all that kind of stuff. So those would probably make money for sure, because those aren't as intensive as his main one. So those are racking in, I'm sure. And of course, on top of that, he has the Beast Burgers and the candy bar. I forget the name. Should know, but yeah. Something with T. Feastables. So his candy bar company as well. Those are two big components that are basically run by itself and has little to no Mr. Beast kind of connotations, even though they kind of do. But that adds to the whole brand. And the number that's been thrown around is 1.5 billion. So it's going to be an interesting kind of thing to see. But that again shows you how big this industry is, which is incredible.
Yeah. I think the way to think about it is, you know, you had cable TV and everything, had big stars then, but this is just so much more personal to the people watching, and it's so much more widespread because of the internet. So yeah, it's no surprise we'll start seeing stuff like that.
Well, a couple of final news pieces from our end. So Apple is looking like they'll finally get rid of the Lightning port for USB-C in Europe. So they've given their most direct confirmation yet that the USB-C equipped iPhone will happen now that the European Union is mandating that all phones sold in its member countries use the connector if they have a physical charger. The senior VP of worldwide marketing at Apple actually said that obviously we'll have to comply. We have no choice. So we've been covering this side of the story as well over the last few months, and it seems like it's going to happen.
Yeah, like obviously, like when you know the European law comes into play, you're not going to just ignore that and just deal with hundreds of millions of dollars in fines for no reason for like what, $2 part. I don't think it doesn't make sense. But the thing that doesn't make sense as well is why till this day is Apple using Lightning?
Ecosystem. They just want to hold people to their own ecosystem stuff.
But what? Like what in the Apple?
Like the whole idea of, I think that was the initial concept before USB-C became so universal.
Because iPads have had it for like 3 years. Like it's USB-C. Like
okay.
So I just don't understand.
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't know the iPads actually had USB-C. Okay.
So I don't.
Okay, so that completely destroys my point.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't do it. Like I don't know if it will cost too much to re-engineer that part, but I really don't think so. Like if you can redo the cameras and all this other stuff. So I think it's just a big question. I have to research myself. I really don't know. But yeah, like I think it's finally time, and that's good because I think the consumer ultimately wins. Like you have a lot of Android phones with USB-C at someone's house, and they're like, "Oh, how many times have you been in that situation?" Yeah, you've been at someone's house.
Do you have an Android charger? No, man. Sorry, I only use Apple. Can't charge my phone today.
Exactly.
Can I stay at your place instead? Because I can call Uber. Nope. Let me just buy you a USB-C right now. Get out of my house.
So I think it's ultimately a consumer win. I see no problems with this law. I see no problems with Apple complying. So yeah.
No, that's fair. In terms of USB-C in itself, what do you think is next? So do you think there's a better alternative that's gonna come out soon?
That's a good question. So USB or micro USB was around for a while, if you remember that. So that was like old digital cameras, like mid 2000s, all the way to the first Android phones, like 2011, 12 kind of thing. So yeah, like we're probably looking at another 10 years of USB-C until the next thing. But I haven't seen any new standards like being mentioned because USB-C is still kind of replacing both USB-A and the micro USB is basically gone. But yeah, I haven't seen any new standards, but I just probably think, something with like maybe USB C 1.1, 2.1 or something where it's got high transfer rate or something and high throughput. But yeah, I haven't really seen anything out there. What about you?
Yeah, no, same. I haven't seen anything that can combat that. Everything that in fact, that's actually a decision that that's something that I think before taking decisions or making decisions when I buy a gear now. So when I got this Chromebook, I was like, does it have a USB-C instead of a specific port, or does a new phone or something? Like everything I want to push towards USB-C. So I think companies need to address that and make sure that's
it can do enough, like it can charge, good data rates, etc. And yeah, I think just there's nothing more annoying than like stupid proprietary connections. Like Sony used to be so bad at that. I don't know if you remember, but they used to have weird pin connectors and just for their phones and everything. But I think if there's just a universal serial bus that everyone could use, that's what it was supposed to be for. Like one USB standard for everyone, but it kind of fragmented again. But yeah, if you could just have that one thing for everyone, I think there's no harm in that at all.
Cool. I think we'll just end here actually.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully, and listening, and hopefully you enjoyed it and got something interesting out of this episode. And we'll see you again soon for the next one. Cheers, guys.